When you think Rocket League, you think flashy players and cool mechanics. Ceiling shots, flip resets, musty flicks, breezy flicks, the list just goes on and on. However, there is always a massive debate surrounding whether a mechanic is actually effective or just flashy, or both at the same time. So today we are going through the best mechanics in Rocket League, a list that is defined by effectiveness, easiness, and flashiness. I'll give each mechanic a rating out of 10 for each of these categories, a brief overview of each and whether you should be learning it, and possibly a little tutorial if I think it's necessary. Also, I'm sure to miss out on a few mechanics in the list, as to include them all would make the video go for an eternity. So be sure to have a discussion in the comments as to which mechanic you think is overall the best across the three categories, and please don't be that guy that rage types an essay on why double flip reset and musty flick double tap should be included, because I think we can all safely agree that it just isn't possible for the large majority of the player base. We also just crossed 30,000 subscribers, which means we only need 20,000 more to reach our goal of 50,000 by the end of the year. So if you haven't, please consider subscribing. It's a great way to support the channel and it would mean a lot. So without further ado, let's dive on into the first mechanic, the fast aerial. The fast aerial is a must-learn mechanic. It is a staple of the higher ranks and can seriously improve your speed and win rate at lower ranks. I've explained it in multiple videos, but basically all you need to do is jump whilst pulling back on the stick, and then let go and jump again, all whilst boosting. It can give you a serious increase in speed to get up to the ball, and will let you beat your opponents pretty much every time if they do not use it. It should be one of the first aerial mechanics, and mechanics full stop that you start to learn, so make sure you spend some time in training practicing it. I give it a 9 for effectiveness as it is extremely useful, a 7 for ease as it does require a bit of practice and muscle memory to get down, and a 3 for flashiness as the only cool thing about it is you flying up into the air faster than just about anyone. Next up we have the wave dash. You know how I just said the fast aerial is super important? Well, this one is equally if not more important. It allows you to get the speed boost of a flip without flipping and without using any boost. From a standing start, you can get to supersonic speed faster when combining wave dashes and flips than just flips alone, so it's really a no-brainer. It involves you jumping, then rocking the car back, and then rocking the car forward and jumping just as your back wheels hit the ground, which should give you a little speed boost. It can be used off the wall and chained together to give you little bursts of speed with little to no boost. I give it a 10 for effectiveness as it is super useful pretty much all the time, an 8 for easiness as it is pretty easy for any rank to learn, and a 2 for flashiness as whilst it does look kinda cool initially, it really isn't once you do it thousands of times. Alright, it's time to spice things up a little bit. I decided to add the flip reset to this list, and before you get out your pitchforks, let me explain why. Yes, it is not an easy mechanic to learn, and yes, it is very situational. However, when using the correct situation, it is near unstoppable if you can do it right. Let me demonstrate. If you are this player and have just got a reset on the ball and are trying to score on the player in net, you can literally do anything, and the player in net has to predict and say what you're going to do before you even do it. You can put the ball in any part of the net, fake the reset, hit it off the back wall, or go for a bump. With the sheer amount of variety once you get the reset, you can see how it can be so effective. I'm not saying you should try flip reset every chance you get, but if you have the mechanical ability and the situation arises, go for it. I give it a 9 for effectiveness if it is used correctly, and a 1 for easiness as it is probably the hardest mechanic on this list, and a 9 for flashiness as it is an icon in the Rocket League community. Next up we have something that I think is extremely underrated, the low 50. All it is a normal 50, but you position yourself behind and low on the ball to get an ideal outcome. It makes it no longer a 50-50, but more like a 70-30. Combining this with a single jump when the opponent challenges will absorb all of their momentum and allow you to get a favourable challenge without using any boost, and it can often leave them jumping over the ball or getting sent away. For effectiveness I give it a 7 as it won't always work, a 10 for easiness as literally all you need to do is sit behind the ball and jump, and a 1 for flashiness as there's nothing cool about it except for the funny reactions of opponents. Another mechanic that is extremely important but easy to learn is the half flip. If you ever find yourself facing the wrong way and doing a 180-degree turn or a chain of backflips, then you need to learn it. Those of you who know how to do it should agree that it is a staple that will get you out of so many sticky situations. It is a cancel backflip with an air roll that lets you face the other way whilst keeping speed and momentum. It can be the difference between getting back for that clutch save or not, so do not ignore it. I gave it a 9 for effectiveness, a 7 for ease, as like a few others it can take a bit of time and muscle memory to get down, and a 3 for flashiness, as it only looks cool if you've never seen it before. Next up we have the air roll, which seems extremely basic, however it is anything but that. Air roll gives you another axis to rotate and maneuver your car, so there is really no reason not to practice and use it. Whilst using standard air roll is good, I also recommend using air roll left or right as it allows you to move on both axes at the same time, whereas with normal air roll you can only do one at a time. It allows you to make the fine adjustments faster and more precisely, as well as to correct any misjudgments easier. I give it an 8 for effectiveness as it is surprisingly useful, a 3 for ease as to truly master air roll takes hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice and experience, and a 7 for flashiness, as adding a few extra spins and pirouettes to your shot can add a little bit of extra flair. To add to this, we have the air dribble. Despite it being a lot harder to learn than basic air roll, it forces you to really refine your car control. So whilst you may not be able to do it, it is still great to practice because you must have full control of your movements in order to do it properly. It is quite an old mechanic, so it is becoming less and less useful and more easily defended, which is why I like to present it as rather a basic mechanic that a lot of other aerial based mechanics stem from. To learn something like a flip reset or a ceiling shot, you must first have a grasp on how to air dribble. So if you're looking to expand into more advanced aerial mechanics, then definitely think about this. I give it a 7 for effectiveness as it is no longer a groundbreaking mechanic but is great to practice aerial car control, a 4 for ease as it can be quite hard to master, and an 8 for flashiness as pulling off a perfect air dribble looks very clean. Another great mechanic is the double tap. Why to shoot straight at the net and make it easy to save when you can hit it off the backboard and make it exponentially harder for the defender to block it. This is a great test of reads in aerial car control as it combines air roll and fast aerials to pull off a really small angle with a fast moving ball. It involves you scoring it off the back wall and can be either set up by yourself or a teammate, and is a really conventional way of scoring in the higher ranks. A great training pack to practice this is Devo, as he was the first one to really popularise the mechanic. I give it a 9 for effectiveness as it is extremely hard to defend, a 3 for easiness as it is quite difficult to pull off, and an 8 for flashiness as booming the ball straight down over the opponent is a thing of beauty. Lastly, we have power hits, clears and shots. If you have made it this far into the video, then hopefully that can reward you with this gem. This is something that will skyrocket your rank, and I'm not saying that as clickbait. It will genuinely open so many doors and opportunities that you previously didn't think possible. If you can hit the ball with your nose just after it bounces, which is called a half volley, then you can generate immense power, catching your opponents off guard and creating a good offense. With a good power clear, you can literally turn a tight defensive situation into a scoring opportunity, so practice them from just about everywhere, off the walls, ground and corners. I give it a 9 for effectiveness as it is extremely underrated and useful, an 8 for easiness as it is quite easy to learn in most positions, and a 2 for flashiness as it isn't really cool, just really useful. So that wraps up my take on the best mechanics in Rocket League. Hopefully I've given some good explanations, tutorials and guides to help you all out, and just remember that this is my opinion and it is very likely that yours will differ in some aspect, so be kind and respectful in the comments. Other than that, be sure to subscribe if you're new and I hope you all enjoyed. Cheers.